What's going on, guys? This weekend we got UFC 322 and what might be the best card of the year. We got Della Maddalena defending his belt against Makhachev, who's moving up to 170, vacating his lightweight belt, and what I think is going to be one of the best fights possibly of all time. For sure, one of the best fights of the year. And we also got Zhang Weili moving up to flyweight to fight Valentina Shevchenko, trying to challenge her for her belt, moving up, vacating her title as well. And just the whole card in general is like really stacked. From the prelims to the main card, like this whole thing is pretty stacked. Like I'm surprised, like, you know, no fights fell through yet, and that's what I'm kind of like hoping doesn't happen. Like I'm really worried about, because this fight's almost like too good to be true. But you know, so far so good. We made it through most of the week. Hopefully, you know, no fights fall through. And the first fight I'm going to be covering from the prelims is going to be Wellmaker versus Haddon. And the narrative going into this fight, I see a lot of people overhyping Wellmaker, which might be deservedly so, but in my opinion, you know, I think he's still pretty green in the sport. I'm not sure if the odds should be as like in his favor as they are, especially like this guy Cody. He has a pretty good fight IQ. I've seen in the Contender Series, he drops his opponent and he immediately like goes for a submission. I even saw one on the regional scene where he's kind of mixing up his wrestling and going for strikes at the same time. I think he's a lot more well-rounded than people think. Like, I'm still going for Wellmaker, but I just think, you know, this guy Cody is being a little bit more overlooked than people are giving him credit for. But that being said, I think Wellmaker's power is going to be a little bit too much for Cody, and I see him putting him away in round 2. Like what he's done with his last few opponents, you know, he's really good at setting up that KO shot. So I see him finishing this fight for sure. I just think it's going to be much more of a barn burner than people are giving it credit for. I think it's going to be much more of a back and forth. I think Cody's going to have success. And I think ultimately Wellmaker's power is going to be what gives him the advantage in this fight. And the next fight of the night, we got Kopylov fighting Gregory Rodriguez. And both of these guys, they have really good power, especially early on in the fight. When, you know, it's like the first round and a half, like they're really explosive. They're real, like they have the knockout ability. I just think as the fight goes on, they're gonna kind of wither a bit more. I think they're gonna start to show that fatigue, and I think it's gonna come down to kind of like, you know, who's the grittier fighter. I think Gregory Rodriguez is gonna like pick up his pace. I think he's gonna be able to like land more output, resulting in like a later round finish, if not like a split decision. I think this fight's going to be very close, but I think ultimately Gregory Rodriguez is going to have a little bit more success on the feet, and I think he's going to outland Kopylov and ultimately secure the decision for sure. And the next fight I'm going to be covering, I think is going to maybe slow the card down a little bit. It's going to be Nickal versus Vieira. And Vieira has the jiu-jitsu to kind of negate Nickal's wrestling a little bit, but he doesn't really do anything with his jiu-jitsu. He mostly, like, you know, will kind of hold the guy either against the cage or smother him from mount. He doesn't really like look for too many submissions or finishes. He kind of just lays and prays. I think if Vieira gets success, you know, if he gets success, whether he switches up one of Nickal's takedowns and, you know, ends up reversing the position, I think he's going to be more willing to just like lay there and kind of stall the fight out while he gets control time. But how I think this fight will play out is Nickal, you know, especially like from his last fight, he's going to come in with a bit more like he has something to prove. I think he's going to be eager to show his improvements, especially from his last fight. I think he'll be able to outland Vieira. Especially if he's threatening, you know, his takedowns, and Vieira's just anticipating the entire time. I think Nickal will be able to land his strikes as he wants to, and maybe eventually he'll be able to mix in the takedowns accordingly and be able to land you know, ground strikes and just accumulate more points over time. Nickal's able to do that. I see him winning this fight by decision. On to the main card, we got Dariush fighting Benoit Saint-Denis. And so when Saint-Denis lost to Dustin Poirier, the narrative was kind of like, oh, Benoit, he's overrated. He's not going to be, you know, top contender. But since then, he's gone on to finish his last 2 opponents by submission, one of them being Mauricio Ruffi. I think he's shown the improvements needed from that Poirier fight to kind of show that he could finish these fights, especially like when he has these takedowns and stuff like that, because he had Poirier's back. He wasn't able to do anything with it, and since then he's gone on to work on his finishing ability, which has shown its results. Obviously, Beneil, he's no walk in the park. He's got elite grappling, good striking, and he's basically fought the who's in lightweight. I just feel like Beneil, he's shown cracks in his game when it comes to people who deal a lot of pressure. Whether it's Charles or Armin, he tends to get caught more often than not, and sometimes that maybe that is in his benefit. He's able to kind of shake it off and get the KO in return. But I feel like when it's someone like Benoit Saint-Denis and his pressure, I think Beneil's going to get caught early on and kind of be on his toes the entire fight. He's going to find it real hard to settle in and get comfortable, and I just see Benoit landing way more damage, and I see him able to mix up the grappling a little bit more, and maybe he's able to score a takedown and just land vicious ground and pound, and I could see him getting a TKO off that. So I'm going to go Benoit Saint-Denis by TKO. Even though this fight's really hard to call, I could see it going either way. Beneil, he has, like I said, he has the ability to get hurt and come back and end up finishing his opponent, So I'm not putting it past him to get it done. I'm just saying, with Benoit's pressure and Beneil's, Beneil's kind of lack of defense, I see him getting caught and just being on edge the entire fight, not being able to settle in. The next fight, we got Carlo Prates fighting Leon Edwards. Dude, I did not realize this was Carlo Prates' 7th fight since 2024. To fight 7 times in a year and a half, almost 2 years, and for him to win almost every single one of those fights by knockout is insane. And people are out here saying oh, people forgot Leon Edwards. People forgot Leon Edwards striking. You can't put it past him. Headshot dead. You look at how he's been fighting recently, aside from really the head kick he lands against Usman, he really hasn't shown that much of his elite fighting. When he fought Colby, it wasn't this crazy impressive domination that we were hoping for. When he fought Bilal, he got dominated. When he fought Sean Brady, kind of same thing, he got dominated. His only real moment that he's had was that big head kick, and aside from that, he almost got knocked out and finished by 36-year-old Nate Diaz, so it's I understand Leon Edwards has crazy striking. Technically he's probably one of the best strikers in welterweight, but I think when you're fighting someone like Carlos Prates, who's kind of just always going for the knockout, doesn't really care about points, doesn't really care about judges, he's just trying to knock you out. I just think that kind of pressure from Prates, early on especially, is going to get Leon Edwards on the back foot. I think it'll get Edwards to kind of try to mix in the wrestling and stuff like that, because I think he's going to get desperate and he's not going to really have an answer for him on the feet. Maybe he'll mix in, some of his kicks, because he does have good kicks, but ultimately I think Carlos Prates is going to he's going to have the edge, especially when it comes to momentum. I know he lost to Ian Gary, but aside from that, he's been on a tear through the division. Whereas you got Leon Edwards, he's coming off of 2 losses. He hasn't had a finish since 2023 or 2022, so that's 3 years ago. Whereas Prates, like I said, he's had 7 fights in the last 2 years, and he's been knocking most of his opponents out. And since this is Leon's first 3rd round fight in a while, and he's coming out against a striker, I think he might come out with a higher sense of urgency, and I can see Prates capitalizing on that and using that to land some big shots on Leon Edwards. I got Carlos Prates winning this by 2nd round KO, 2nd or 3rd round KO, because you just never know how these are gonna go. But I do see him putting away Leon Edwards for sure. In the next fight of the night, we got Sean Brady taking on the undefeated Michael Morales. This fight is so tough to call because, like I said, we got Michael Morales, who's undefeated, has unbelievable power, going up against, Sean Brady, who has high grappling with a high fight IQ. And this fight in general just has a lot of weight in the welterweight division, because you got someone, like I said, who's undefeated in Michael Morales, and someone like Sean Brady, who's kind of fought his way back up through the ranks since he's lost to Bilal Muhammad. And I think it could determine, who could be next for the championship, depending on how it goes. And I think if Michael Morales can defend the takedowns, if he can defend the takedowns and keep it standing, I can see him outboxing Sean Brady, outlanding him, putting on more volume, if not potentially knocking him out. But I see him more so landing more on the scorecards and like landing more volume. I also think that vice versa, if Brady can take him down, if he can get the fight to the floor, I think he'll be able to land like, you know, more ground and pound. I think he'll have more success in controlling him. And Brady's like, he's very good at mixing it up. Like he'll be able to, like, you know, clinch it up. He'll be able to land elbows. Like he's very good at mixing everything together. And if Morales isn't able to defend that, I can definitely see Brady taking advantage of that and either submitting him on the floor or just riding it out to a decision and winning by just output and control time, stuff like that. In the co-main event of the night, we got Weili stepping up to flyweight to fight Valentina Shevchenko for her championship. And I feel like this fight is being like really slept on. I'm not sure why. Both of these women have dominated their divisions. They basically cleared out everyone. There's no one left for them to fight. And when you think about women's MMA, like Weili and Shevchenko, they're going to be considered some of the greatest of all time. I'm so hyped to see how Weili does at a different weight class, and how Shevchenko's going to deal with that lighter women's skill, because I feel like she's going to have a bit more pep in her step, because she's coming up like from a smaller weight class. She might have the speed advantage. I think Shevchenko is going to be able to keep it at range if she's able to utilize her jab and teeps and side kicks and stuff like that. But I think there will be times where Weili's able to close the distance and clinch it up or take her down, and I think that'll be her opportunity to land like ground and pound and like hunt for submissions. We know Shevchenko, she can be submitted. We've seen it before. I don't see either woman finishing the fight. I see it going the distance, but I think it'll be like a hard fought, like very close split decision where their levels are going to kind of cancel each other out. Like they're both going to just have like a, I don't want to say all-out war, but it's going to be like a technical chess match for sure. But I think in the end, Valentina will do just enough to edge out the decision. I think she's going to like I said, she's going to utilize her jab more. She's going to utilize her front kicks. I just see her landing more damage on Weili, especially being the longer, like, rangier fighter. And I think she's going to, just very, very slightly get the decision. And in the main event of the night, we got Della Maddalena defending his belt against Makhachev, who's moving up from lightweight. And on paper, this has got to be one of the best fights of all time. Like, skill for skill. When it comes to especially grappler versus striker, I think this has got to be one of the best matchups that you could possibly make, especially if it lives up to expectations. Islam's chasing, the welterweight championship. JDM, he wants Islam's pound for pound spot. And when JDM first fought for the title, I thought he was going to lose, to be honest. I thought Bilal's wrestling was going to be too much for him. I thought, this guy trains with Khabib. There's no way, like, he's gonna have a plan for anything JDM throws at him. I thought JDM was too one-dimensional to be in there with someone like Bilal. I was pretty much wrong about all those things. Approaching this fight, the narrative's kind of the same. I hear a lot of people saying, Islam's grappling's too much for him. He's gotten bigger. I know MMA math doesn't make a lick of sense. I'm probably gonna sound like a casual saying this, but seeing what JDM was able to do to Bilal and seeing what Volk almost did to Islam, I don't really see this fight playing out in a way where Islam's able to dominate JDM like most people think that he's going to do. People, the way I'm hearing people talk, they think this is going to be Makhachev versus Duplessis part 2, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be a lot more of a back and forth. I think JDM's going to be able to negate Islam's takedowns. I think he's going to be able to switch positions on him. And if JDM's able to have that same precision of takedown defense as he did against Bilal, I see him lighting Islam up on the feet. I think he's going to, have him bloodied up. But I also see Islam landing on JDM as well, because Bilal was able to land on JDM in their fight. So I can see Islam, landing better strikes than Bilal was able to, because Islam does have better striking. But I don't think it's nearly as good as JDM. So I still think he's going to get outstruck. But if Islam's able to take it to the ground and he's able to prove that he can hold him there, I think it'll discourage Jack a lot, which can kind of change the tide of the fight. Islam does have what he needs on paper to beat JDM. It's just personally, I just see JDM being able to, negate the takedowns and outland Islam And I see this going down to the judges' scorecards. I see JDM just slightly outpointing Islam on the scorecards, but this is one of those fights where it's almost impossible to call. I'm going based off of bias here. I'm not even gonna lie. I just like JDM, and I think he's really good for the division. And I see JDM winning this by, yeah, like I said, decision or late round KO. I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. But yeah, let me know who you guys got this weekend. And until the next video.